Hello, everybody. This is Mac Curfman. I'm the Chief Learning Evangelist for MA Curfman Learning. Welcome. We're going to have a great time today talking about developing a transformational vision for your projects. Transformational vision, just kind of think of those two words and what they think, or what you think they mean, right? Developing a transformational vision. All right, so welcome. Again, my name is Mac Curfman. Just a quick bio of me. Started my career in city government. Spent a couple of years doing city planning. Eventually found my way into city management. Was a city manager in a couple of cities up north, northern U.S., and did that for about a decade. After about a decade, I kind of said, okay, there's got to be life outside of government someplace. So I set off to find it and became a consultant, of course, working mostly for cities and counties as well. And then eventually started working with national government, federal government agencies. And then found my way into training, kind of almost by accident, but I found that that's my real passion. I love training. You know, there's a saying that if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, that's me. I love what I do. I love training. I love getting up in the morning and saying, okay, who am I going to train today? And what am I going to learn today? So anyhow, that's a little bit about me. I do a lot of project management training. I'm a PMP, certified project manager, and do a lot of, probably 70% of what I do is project management related. So today, though, we're talking about developing this transformational vision for your projects. So let's kind of map out where we're going. So we're going to talk about visions, kind of in general, what a vision is, of course. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a vision bundle, bundling some visions together. And then we'll talk, of course, what that word transformation means, project visions, how do we develop project visions? Again, then building this transformational vision for your projects. How do we do that? We're going to step by step go through that process. And then in the end, talk about how to communicate your vision to your teams. So vision, let's talk about a little bit about what a vision is. Of course, generically, a vision is a clear picture of your desired future. Clear picture of your desired future. So think future, out in the future, what does that look like, or what do you want it to look like? And as I said, we're going to talk about vision on many different levels. So you could talk about a personal vision. What do I want to see in the future for myself? Or it could be about your organization, it could be about projects. So developing this clear picture of the future, of your future. Of course, it's a cornerstone. A vision is a cornerstone of effective leadership today. Your organizations are going to live or die depending on your vision for your organization. They're not just lofty statements. There should be practical tools that guide all of your daily decisions and your resources. And of course, it's going to act as a motivational tool for your teams as well. So let's talk about this vision bundle. And what do I mean by a vision bundle? Now, as I said, we have a lot of different visions. We may have organizational visions, the vision that guides your particular organization, your business, the government. You may have teams and visions for your teams. Again, you might have a personal vision as well. So let's talk about this bundle. Right. So the first piece is societal vision. As a society, where do we think we're going? Where do we want to go? And no politics here, but I think we're struggling with that now in the U.S. I think we're struggling with what our societal vision is. There's also organizational visions that govern your companies, your businesses, your governments. It's going to guide, again, where that organization wants to go. Team-based visions. We can have visions based on our particular teams that we work with, either project teams or other types of teams as well. And of course, mostly what we're talking about today is this project-based or project-level vision for our projects. And then lastly is a personal vision? What vision do you have for yourself looking into the future? And it's important to think about these as not so much individual visions. We have a societal vision over here, an organizational vision. It's really important that we bundle them together. It's really important, in fact, that we link them together in this vision bundle. You think about a bundle, you want to tie them together and link them together in a bundle. Because linking them together, think of this in terms of your personal, project-based, team-based, organizational visions, linking them together. First, because if we are able to link them together, tie them together, we're then able to set and achieve clear goals and objectives. We get clear goals and objectives that we're able to set and achieve because we're all working in the same direction. My personal vision, project vision, team, organizational visions, they're all working in the same direction. Not that they need to be exactly the same, they don't and they shouldn't be, but at least in the same direction. The problem occurs, one of the problems occurs when we have different directions that we're going. Let's say I have a personal vision that I'm going straight ahead and that my organizational vision is in a total, in like a 90-degree difference. So that we know, of course, that is a problem. The things aren't matching. So they need to be aligned up. So when they are aligned, we can set and achieve clear goals. We can effectively communicate then those visions. If I know what that vision is, if I have it clear between the personal all the way up to the organizational, then I can effectively communicate that vision. We can understand and support our own and other personal visions as well. If I know what your personal vision is and have that in mind in my team, for example, you and our teammates, we can support each other's personal visions and aspirations. And then finally, we're going to support, by linking these, we're going to build a supportive culture. So it's important to be able to think about these as a bundle and then be able to link them, tie them together. All right, so as we proceed in talking about visions, let's think about that. How do we tie these individual visions together in a bundle? Let's talk about this word transformational, because I've made a big deal of it in the title of this presentation today. Transformational vision, not just a vision, but a transformational vision. So think about that word transformational, to transform something from, it's going to be transformed from this into something else. Let me ask you a question. What is the one thing that every single project you have ever been involved in has had in common? There's at least one thing that every single project you've ever worked on has had in common. And I would dare say this is worldwide. This is history-wide. That every single project that's ever been accomplished, they've all had one thing in common. And that one thing that we all have in common is change. The very definition of a project, right? The very definition of a project is we're going to start a project at, let's say, point A, and then we're going to finish the project, or our desired finished point, let's say, is at point Z. So by definition then, in order to go from point A to point Z, it involves change. If nothing changes, we're going to end up at the same place that we started. So every project is about change. Every project's about change, and change then is why projects occur. Change is why projects occur, and change is how projects occur. So ultimately then, project managers are change agents. Project managers are, we talk about maybe managing the change, and there's some aspects to that, but I believe we're more than that. We are change agents. We are the ones who are driving the changes in our organizations, the changes that our projects are associated with, global changes, as well as local changes. Change is why projects happen. So again, transformational, change-based. One of my favorite business authors is a guy by the name of Tom Peters. Tom Peters wrote his first book with Bob Waterman back in 1982. That book was called In Search of Excellence. Best-selling book, one of the best-selling books of all time, In Search of Excellence. If you've not read that book, it is still one of the best books on excellence that you will ever find. And he has written a lot of books, and they all kind of are really around this this idea of transformation. Transformation. So he talks a lot about doing transformative or transformational work, doing work that makes a difference. So doing projects that really matter. Now, you all and I have gotten my fair share of projects that, were kind of, I'll call boring. Maybe they didn't mean a whole lot. They were mundane. We've done these kinds of projects before and again and again and again. And in the end, did they really matter? We can probably all scratch our heads at a few projects. Why do we do that? We want to be able to do projects that matter. All of us do. So he says, in order to do that, let's say, for example, we get a project handed to us from our boss, our senior management, our clients, and it's a mundane project. It's a boring project. We need to be able to look at that in a different way. We need to be able to reframe, recast that project so that it does matter. If we get that handed off on that project where it's, if we look at this 5 years from now, it's really not going to matter whether we were successful in this project or not. Well, then let's look at it a different way. How can we make sure that it does matter? We're going to reframe that. We're going to recast it in a way in this vision, and that's where we start. We recast it in this vision. So doing transformative work or doing projects that really matter. Doing projects that transform the world around us. Doing projects that transform the world around us. Doing projects that transform also our organizations from the inside out. Transform our organizations from the inside out. We're working in that organization to be able to transform not just the world around us, but our organizations. And finally, then to transform us. To transform us as we work through those projects. To transform the world around us, our organizations, and finally also us. Doing this transformative work. So then this transformative vision that we're going to cast in our projects means something. It means something, and it means no more boring projects. This should be our mantra, right? No more boring projects. No more boring projects, right? So this transformative vision is the way so that we can recast this project that gets handed off to us. It's a boring, mundane project that we're going to recast it in such a way that it's going to transform something, us, our organizations, so that it will not be a boring project. So we have to understand the power. There is power in this transformative vision. There's power in this transformational vision. I just love this picture, especially after the weather we've been having here in South Carolina and across the country as well, across the U.S. We've had some wacky weather. This weekend is going to be hot in March here. We've had extremely cold weather. We've even had snow here in South Carolina, where I live. So I just like looking at this picture. So I'm going to concentrate on this for just a minute. But Stephen Covey, in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about this transformative vision. We're not going to start something. We're not going to start a project until we fully understand what that end is. What the end of the project is. So we're going to get it fully in our minds, and we're not going to proceed until we totally understand what that end is. And we need to be able to describe it using all of our senses. If I can say, okay, this is what this project looks like, I can close my eyes and I can see that endpoint of this particular project in my mind's eye. Or I might be able to say, okay, well, this is what this project sounds like. At the end, this is what it sounds like, or smells like, or tastes like. Okay, now we're getting a little weird, right? but really, that's it. If I can understand that end point, the vision, so well that I can describe it with all five of my senses, I get it. I totally understand that. And not only that, but then I can impart that vision to other people. So begin with the end in mind. This transformative vision is a picture of that end point. Alan Mulally, former CEO of Ford Motor Company, as he was retiring from Ford, said, "I am convinced in the power of a compelling vision." So Mulally's story is a great story. He started as a CEO, was hired as a CEO in 2006, hired away from Boeing, and he was a very controversial pick at the time. The Ford's first non-automotive CEO they ever had in their 100 years of history. He was very controversial, but he also came in at an extremely wild point for Ford as well. When he got there, he said, "Ford is rudderless or directionless. We have no idea where we're going." So in fact, he spent the first 18 months of his tenure as CEO building and developing a brand new vision for Ford. And it wasn't just him. He involved every single person in Ford, all the way from the top corner offices in Dearborn, all the way down through the line workers in all the plants. They developed a brand new vision for Ford. And you remember 2006, 2007, 2008, the Great Recession. Ford, in fact, was the only one of the car makers, the U.S. car makers, that didn't take a buyout, if you remember that. And that was because Mulally credits that to Ford's brand new vision. The Ford began to jump out of its slump and began to perform much, much better. And again, Mulally credits the vision for that. It's extremely powerful vision. So this compelling vision is powerful. So how do we then create this compelling and transformative vision? So there's some steps involved. And the first step is we're going to have to write it down. Must be written. And the thing about this transformative vision, this vision, it's going to be iterative. It's going to evolve over time. Your first draft is probably not going to be the last draft. So, and I'll show you some visions here in a moment. And I'll tell you my personal vision. I'll show you that in a bit as well. And I've been working on that for probably close to 10 years. I've got many iterations of that vision because it changes. Things change all around us. So that vision should never, in fact, be static. It always needs to evolve. So first of all, it's got to be written. Second of all, it's got to be the big dream. It's got to be big. It's got to be bold. It's transformative vision. You're going to change from this into something else that's not just a second cousin to that, but it's something completely different. So dream big. One of my favorite, I'm a frustrated architect. I wanted to be an architect when I was in high school, and then I figured out you had to have math. At least at the time you needed math. And that kind of, okay, that wasn't happening. So I changed majors in college. But one of my favorite architects is a guy by the name of Daniel Hudson Burnham. Burnham is a huge architect in the field of architecture. You say his name today to architects and just they go wow, because he designed so many big things. And I love this quote. I love this quote about him. He says, "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood, and probably themselves will not be realized. Make big plans, aim high in hope and work. You see, that's what Burnham did. He designed a lot of big projects. The Flatiron Building in the middle of Times Square, New York City. You probably recognize that building. He did the whole plan of Chicago after the Chicago fire. He designed a brand new plan for the city of Chicago. Not only Chicago, but Manila, Nicaragua. Manila, the Philippines, and also San Francisco after an earthquake there as well. He kind of made that his specialty. Big things were his scheme. This is a picture of the Court of Honor in Grand Basin in the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, what became known as the World's Fair. He developed this all in Chicago, and many of these buildings are still in use today. Huge, behemoth buildings and elaborate. Designed Union Station in Chicago. In fact, Union Station not only in Chicago, but Union Station in Washington, D.C., and also Union Station in Pittsburgh. So again, big projects. And so again, he's admonishing us to make sure the dreams that we have are big dreams. So written down, big dreams, and then it's a focus on success. We're going to make sure that we are focusing, that endpoint is going to be focused on, this is the project as it is successful. You know, we don't want to imagine. Now we'll plan for, of course, we're going to plan for the things that go off course, but we want to imagine the project being extremely successful. So focus on success. This vision is going to flow from values. Every vision follows its values. So we're going to have organizational values, personal values, values for our teams. So we're going to first identify those values, and then the vision will be developed from the values. Again, we're going to focus on that end point of the project. Focus on the end point. And we're going to use some very intentional and specific language. We're going to talk about that language in just a moment. Very specific, intentional language. Because we're going to paint a mental graphical picture. We're going to paint this picture in our heads, and everyone else's heads is involved in this project. This is what the end point looks like, sounds like, smells like, tastes like, etc. And we're going to look at that mental picture every day. We may not read the vision statement every day, but we're going to look at that mental graphical picture every single day. It's going to remind us, this is what the end point is. This is what we're working toward. Crafting this transformative vision. So let's talk about the language, right? The language we're going to use. First of all, it has to be cast in present tense. Now, we're going to be something. The project's going to be this. The project is this. I am this. It's present tense language, and that's extremely important. Also, clear language. We want to be able to clearly talk about what this project is and what the end point is. One of my favorite quotes from Andy Stanley is that complexity is the enemy of clarity. Complexity is the enemy of clarity. So again, this needs to be complex free, right? Pretty simple in terms of the language that you use. So present tense, clear language, concise. This vision can't go on and on and on and on. It's got to be very concise. And then finally, infused with passion and emotion. This vision needs to be infused with language that's full of passion and emotion. I mean, if there's one place to put passion and emotion into language, this is the point. The vision is the place to do that. Again, because we're going to use this vision in part to be able to motivate us and motivate our teams, our organization around that endpoint. So language is going to be very important. So as we think about organizational and team-based visions, right? So in an organization or team, this vision sets the direction of that organization or team. It defines the priorities. Now, there are many different directions that we could take, but this is the direction we're taking. And this is what that vision sets us to do. It defines our priorities. It aligns efforts across functions. So we make sure that, for example, our sales department and marketing department and production, et cetera, are all working toward the same thing. We're all going in the same direction. That vision aligns all those departments and functions. They ensure every initiative contributes to that broader organizational goal. Everything that we do, all the projects contribute to the organizational goals, all the tasks, and this is really important, but even on a micro level, at the macro level is important, also at the micro level it's important, because that means every single task that I do, let me say that again, every single task that I do needs to contribute to the vision. This is important because we'll often find ourselves doing work that if we sit and think for a moment, this work does not contribute to my vision, to the organizational vision, the project vision, team vision, personal vision. If it's not aligned, if it's not helping me accomplish that vision, then why in the world am I doing that work? I need to stop that. If it's not contributing to any vision, it's just a waste of resources. So again, it's ensuring that everything is lining up, heading in the same direction. And this vision, again, is going to describe that organization or team's future state. And we talk about projecting it out 5 to 10 years in the future. As an organization or team, you want to project out 5. I used to say 20, but COVID cut that in half. Or it might even be closer to the 5-year point maybe now, that looking out 10 years is probably irrelevant perhaps, because things are changing so much and so fast that maybe that horizon might be at the five-year level. And again, it's an aspirational statement, meaning that this is what we aspire to do. This is what it's written in present tense language, but I'm working toward it. I'm a work in progress, right? I'm working toward it. So that's at the organization and team level. Let's talk about, again, the project vision, which is what we're here to talk about, right? The project level vision. PMBOK 8 says that every project has a purpose. Understanding that purpose is critical for people to commit their time, energy in the right direction, achieving the project purpose. It is a way to create passion, meaning, so there's that word passion and meaning for a project's envisioned goal. A common vision helps keep people pulling in the same direction. When immersed in the details of everyday work, and we know that feeling, right? We get slogged down in the mud sometimes. That clear understanding of the end goal can help guide our decisions toward the desired outcome of the project. That's PMBOK 8. At that project level. Now, we can pull some characteristics out from that statement in PMBOK. We can pull some characteristics out. So first, the project summarizes the purpose of the project. It's a summarization of the purpose. Again, it uses clear and succinct language to be able to do that. And PMBOK talks about that. It paints a realistic but attractive view of the outcomes. You see, as project managers, I've been a project manager for over 35 years. As project managers, we are an optimistic bunch. I haven't really met a project manager yet who is a pessimist. We're pretty optimistic as it goes. And so a lot of times we paint this attractive picture, but again, it has to be realistic. And of course, the risk management process helps it that's where we get the realism, right? So realistic but attractive view of those outcomes. It's used again as a powerful motivational tool for our projects. In other words, right, PMBOK doesn't use this language, but I'm going to. It describes the project as not boring. It's not boring projects. If you read that statement again from Pembroke, it says, you can see it. It's not. We don't want boring projects. Boring projects are not just boring for us, but they're boring for everybody else too. If we come out with a lackluster outcome, nobody wants that. So project level vision. Let's go to the last one, and that's a personal vision. Their personal vision. Now, if you've never worked on this on yourself, I'm going to give you an opportunity here now to kind of start thinking about this project, developing a personal vision. Now, this personal vision, again, it's a statement, again, a written statement, describing your ideal future, projecting yourself 5, 10, maybe further down the road, 20 years down the road. Again, integrating your core values, we'll talk about that in a moment, passions, long-term goals, and again, that's going to decide your decisions. Right? It defines how you want to live. And again, it covers career, personal growth, relationships, family, etc. I'm a proud member of the Maxwell team, John Maxwell team. And Maxwell has a great vision. His personal vision, again, centers around adding value to people, fostering personal growth, and creating positive transformational change in the world. He focuses on mentoring leaders, and he does this around the world. He's been in a bunch of countries and being able to then transform the governments at the highest level. So that's, again, his personal vision. Thinking again about this bundle that we talked about early on, societal, organizational, team-based, project level, and then your personal vision. Hopefully you can see now, as we talked about those different levels, hopefully you can see how when we tie those together, we bundle, bundle these together, excuse me, you can see how they work together. And you can also see, I'm sure, that if they're not aligned, you can see how they fight with each other in this bundle. Excuse me. So how do we then craft this? We talked about how do we write it, but crafting this shared transformational vision as a project level vision. So again, we're going to start at the beginning, and that's the values of the project, all right? The values of the project. So core values, again, beliefs form the foundation, again, as an organization, or at the level of the project, the same thing. Values are the most, what you value mostly, right? What's the most important thing to the project? What's the most important thing? They're aspirational ideals. They're the magnetic north on the compass that steers this project. Right? It steers our decisions, steers the behaviors of the team members to accomplish this project. Values of your project. Now, I think it's important to be able to spend time, and not a lot of project managers, I don't think, do this. Spending time here, okay, what are the values of this project? What do we bring as a team? What do we bring as an organization to this project? What's the most important things that are going to come out of this project? What are the most important outcomes? What do we value the most? And we can think about a lot of different, there's thousands and thousands of words that we could use to describe these values. I'll give you a few here. Brene Brown has written this book, Dare to Lead, terrific book. And she talks about this. There's a list of values in the book, and I just kind of tore it out and put it in my slide here. And again, it helps kind of just think of, perhaps the values of this particular project that you're working on. Accountability, authenticity, confidence, courage, creativity, dignity, integrity, risk-taking, perseverance. We can go on and on, right? So being able to look at my project, what values are coming out of this project? What do we value the most? What do we think is most important as we work on this project? So we're gonna take just a few minutes, not very long, but I'm gonna do this little values lab. I'm gonna give you just a couple of minutes, and what I want you to do is select, let's say, a couple. If we're doing this in a longer setting, we would do 3 to 5, but let's say two. Let's say two. What are two values that your project embodies? Two values that you think your project embodies. Think about the planned outcomes. I'm going to go back to that list. You can kind of pull from that list if you want, or this might spur some ideas as well. So what are two values that your project embodies? Again, think about those planned outcomes. So I'll give you about a minute. Let's say about a minute here. Got a couple of values. Couple of values that your project embodies. Think about those planned outcomes for the project. So again, it's not a lot of time, but hopefully you've kind of got a couple of ideas, a couple of values that you kind of hit on. I'll give you an example. My family and I just moved in January from a house to a new house. It's a larger house. My wife and I were empty nesters, and it was just the two of us. But now my mother-in-law has moved in with us, and a 90-year-old mother-in-law has moved in with us, and my daughter has moved back in with us as well. We're helping her fight cancer at this point. So she's moved back in with us as well. So we needed a bigger space. So we got a new house, moved in January. So again, in that move, again, it's a huge project. If you've ever moved, you know it's a huge project. That move then had some specific values to it. One value was that everything should arrive safely. Right? So the safety of those possessions from one house to another house. Another value was the space, and we needed additional space, and so we were able to accomplish that as well. So those are just kind of two that I pulled out of that particular project. So again, we're going to use it in just a minute. So this values lab, again, we're talking about creating or bringing out those values. So it's important, again, that we believe and uphold those values in our teams or organizations. It's important that we live up to those. And we're going to use those values then to make decisions for our teams, to make decisions for our projects, resource allocations. They're not just words that we'll pull out, but those words are important because they help us then to, again, make decisions for our projects. And we live out those. So the values and the vision, values and vision, the values then lead to our vision. In fact, the way I usually say it, our values inform and enlighten our vision. The values, and that's why the values come first. And I've had many people ask me, doesn't the vision come first? Then no, the values are going to shed light on really where we're going, what our vision is. So let's define vision then. General vision, it identifies and describes that future state. Aspirational, projects 5-10 years into the future for an organization or the end of the project on a project level. The vision statement answers this question. I think this is concisely puts this whole idea of what a vision is. It answers this question: if we consistently fulfilled our purpose with excellence, what would that look like? What would it look like if we fulfilled our purpose with excellence over that period of time? That's one way to be able to think about what your vision is. Now, that vision has to have some specific things. First of all, it has to be transformational. It has to have change involved in it. It has to be able to transform from this to this and be able to define both the beginning point and the end point of that vision. It has to be transformation. It has to be known by everybody. It can't be a secret vision. It has to be known by everybody. And it also has to be clearly articulated by everybody as well. And then finally, creating this compelling picture, this mind picture of the future. And again, we're going to use this graphical mind picture every day. We're going to look at that graphical mind picture every day, as well as our teams, our project teams, to be able to describe, this is where we're going, guys. This is why we're doing this. This is what we're going toward. So in order to kind of look at how to construct these vision statements, we're going to analyze a couple of vision statements. So when you think about analyzing, there's 5 things to be able to analyze here. First of all, is the vision statement clear? And can you remember it? Is it clear? And is it memorable? Does it have some sort of aspirational impact? Is it big? Is it bold? Is it going to matter? Third, can you act upon it? Can you make decisions based on this vision? Does it matter every day? Is it unique? Does it stand out from the crowd? And finally, fifth, is it culturally aligned? Does it match our values? Does it match our values? So let's give a couple of examples of these vision statements, okay? I'm going to go transform back to Ford, right? I'm going to use Ford's. This is Ford's current vision for the organization for Ford Motor Company. All right, here it is. We believe in the power of creating a world with fewer obstacles and limits, where people have the freedom to do what, you might ask? Freedom to build a better life and pursue their dreams. Freedom to shorten the distance between where you are and where you go, where you want to go. The freedom to connect people down the road and over the horizon to discover possibilities and enjoy the thrill, adventure, and pride of moving freely. Now, let me ask you the $64,000 question, right? In this vision, what's Ford selling? What's Ford selling? And hint, it's not cars. From this vision, you get a sense that Ford is selling what? Freedom. They're selling freedom, right? The freedom to move around, to pursue your dreams, to connect people. To connect people. I mean, there was a 2-page spread. I believe it was in USA Today a number of years ago, right in the middle of USA Today newspaper, a 2-page spread, a centerfold spread advertisement by Home Depot, the home improvement company. On the left side of this 2-page spread, it read in big letters, big bold letters, Home Depot does not sell drills. Now, those of you who have visited Home Depot, do they sell drills? Of course they do. Of course they sell drills, right? You walk in and they sell, all kinds of drills. On the right side of the page, on the right side of this 2-page spread, in big bold letters again, it said, "We sell holes to be able to hang your pictures." No, they don't. I mean, they want of course, they want you to buy their drill, but you're not really going to Home Depot to buy the drill. What you really want is to be able to hang a picture on your wall, and you need the drill in order to accomplish that. Ford here, they're not selling cars and trucks. They're selling freedom to move around the country, to freedom to move around the world. Brilliant, I think. All right, let's look at that in the lens of that we just painted. Is it memorable? I think it is. Does it have an aspirational impact? Ooh, I think definitely it does. Is it actionable? I think yes. Is it unique? Definitely. Is it culturally aligned? Now, we can't really tell that, but again, that would be an inside perspective. Is it culturally aligned? I think that's a terrific picture of what we're really talking about in terms of this transformational vision. Again, it's an organizational level. Let's look at a team level. And I don't remember where this is from. We aim to be a team known for curiosity, creativity, and courage, turning bold ideas into solutions that move our organization forward. Again, is it memorable? Mm-hmm. Does that have an impact? Yeah, I think it has all 5 of those. Again, it's short, it's clear. Let's look at some project-based visions. Back to the 1960s, landing on the moon, landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. That was the project level for the Apollo program. To see the first stars and galaxies forming in the early universe and to understand the origins of planets and life. That's the James Webb Space Telescope project. Clear, concise. It paints that graphical picture. All right, what about a personal vision then? So I'm going to give you my personal vision. This is by no means set as an example, as a perfect example. This is not perfect at all. It's something I've been working on, like I said, for about 10 years. And it flows from my core values. I'll tell you these, the 5 core values: love, service, challenge, improvement, and growth. Those are the 5 core values that I have. And my personal vision statement then is this: I'm a servant entrepreneur who influences and transforms people and organizations. I speak to, train, and coach leaders around the globe. I write, publish, and produce sought-after blogs, training programs and videos, and best-selling books. I build and lead highly motivated teams of people as I invest and engage in many entrepreneurial ventures. I'm loving, generous, and kind to my wide circle of friends and family. That's mine. Yours is going to be something completely different. But I want to hold this out, again, not as the perfect example, but as just an example, something to be able to work toward. If you don't have one at this point, I highly encourage you to take the time to be able to develop one for yourself. It takes time, it takes energy, it's highly personal. You're going to look at yourself in a completely different way to be able to construct this vision. So let's do this real quick again. We'll call this the Vision Lab. From those 2 values that you pulled out, those 2 values you discovered from your in your project, I want you to build, say, 2 phrases, until 2 phrases that will begin to add substance and a little bit of detail toward a vision for your project. So you're going to take those 2 words, those 2 values, and kind of put some meat to the bones there a little bit. Put some other words with it. What do you think that outcome looks like? What do you think, again, around those couple of words that you pulled out? Can you begin to fashion something that heads you in the direction that we would call a vision? Again, I'm going to give you about a minute to do that. So being able to, again, think about those 2 words that you pulled out, those values, and being able to kind of start putting some words together that kind of begin to describe maybe what that endpoint looks like for your project, the vision for your project. Now, that's exactly the process. So again, if you're looking in terms of visioning process for your organization, visioning process for your teams, for your projects, we were able to help a lot of organizations kind of walk through this process. At organizational levels, we sometimes do, over the weekend, we'll do like a retreat with the organization that helps people really kind of dig into those values. Again, we spend a lot of time on those values, digging in, and then beginning to craft sentences around those values that kind of, and at the end of the weekend, typically we come up with a full-fledged vision statement. Now, that vision statement, again, is not cast in stone. It should never be cast in stone for an organization or for you. It's iterative. It's ongoing. It evolves because things in this world change. And your vision needs to change as well. So in terms of, again, crafting this vision statement, again, is it clear and memorable? Make sure everybody is able to understand it, remember it, that it takes a bold direction. Back to Daniel Hudson Burnham, right? No little plans. Make it, again, you can use it to make decisions, to get your daily work accomplished. Excuse me, your project work. Again, it's got to stand out. Make it reflect, again, your perspective. And again, matches your values. So when you begin to craft this, begin to work these out into statements, again, make sure that you use these 5 principles. So again, remember these things, again, crafting it, it's got to be written down, dream big, focus on success, flows from those values, focuses on the end point, thinking about specific language. Again, you're painting this mental picture, and you're going to look at that picture every day. You're going to look at that mental picture every day. So being able to craft that, and again, it's going to take time to be able to craft this in such a way that it's going to be meaningful to you, to your organization, to your projects. So heading down toward the end of our time here, let's talk about how we then communicate this vision with impact. How do we communicate this vision with impact? Because a lot of people are not going to read this vision, even though we are going to spend a lot of time creating this vision. It's up in your website. It's going to be, front and foremost of everything. But again, it just becomes at some point words. So I want to be able to have that vision be an impact, whether I read it or whether I don't. So what we do is we use that, we craft that, and then in that vision statement into a story. And we use storytelling to kind of being able to communicate to our teams, to our organization, to our stakeholders, what this vision is. Right? So again, we use storytelling to humanize the vision, right? We use storytelling because stories are exciting. Stories draws us in. We all love stories. So we craft this, what I call a North Star narrative. This is, again, based on the vision statement. So we take that vision statement we've crafted and we create a story around it. And it can be a true story. I'm going to give you one true story in just a moment. Or it can be kind of a semi-fictional statement that represents what this vision statement is about. We celebrate successes and lessons using storytelling. We use stories, again, from the front lines, not just from this perspective of the organization or from the project. We're going to use stories from people who are actually working in the project, and to be able to, again, craft this narrative about our projects. And again, it's about connecting during the challenging times, right? So let me give you one kind of North Star narrative. I work a lot in North Africa, West Africa, Middle East. I spent a lot of time over the last decade or so in West Africa, particularly Senegal. I go yearly, just about yearly, to the country of Senegal on the west coast of Africa, and spend anywhere between 2 weeks and 12 weeks, depending on the year. Spent several years ago about 3 months there. Again, I do training there, training and coaching. And one of the people we work with, met him for the first time, my first time over there in 2016. And terrific guy. He owns a pharmacy. And he has about 12 employees. And he's been coming to our seminars. And part of what we do is we teach a course in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we do like a consultative visit. We go and help them implement the things that we've taught them in the class. And so in the afternoon, I go to his pharmacy. His name is Monsieur Ba. And I go to his pharmacy. He gives me a tour around the pharmacy. And he's very proud of the work that he's done. And he said, you know, the things he's learning in our classes, he's been able to implement. And he's done renovations to his pharmacy. And he says the employees are working better. And my relationship with my employees is better because of the things that we're learning in the class. And then he takes me back to his office. And as we sit there and talk about the changes that he's made and how his business is improving, how his employees are improving, he begins to kind of transition the conversation to his personal life, to his family life. And he begins to tell me how the things he's learned in this class, he's not only implementing in his business, but he's also implementing in his family. And he says to me, he says, Mac, my relationship with my wife is much better because of the things I've learned in your class. The things that I've learned, again, are helping me with my children. I have a better relationship with them. I mean, to a trainer, this is nirvana. When somebody relates to you, the changes that they're making in their life, and it's not only affecting their business, but it's affecting their home life, their family life, their kids, their spouse. That's like the end game for a trainer. And so I tell that story. It's, again, I have a nonprofit organization that I work with to do the training in West Africa and the Middle East. And I tell that story again to people who might contribute to my nonprofit. And again, that helps people understand what our vision is. Nowhere in that story does I even say a word about vision. That story says it all. Again, you're going to engage your project teams through regular vision and reinforcement, right? You're going to communicate that vision constantly, not just reading it, not just having, but again, using those North Star types of conversations. All your actions are aligned, right, with the vision. Make sure of that. Make sure you're not doing any extraneous work that's not aligned to where you're going in this project or in the organization or your teams. Make sure everything is aligned so you're not wasting time or resources or energy. Involve your team in this. This is very important. Just like Alan Mulally did at Ford, he involved everybody who was an employee at Ford. Involve your team in this vision. You get different perspectives. I mean, I know my perspective, I know me, but I want other people, I want their perspectives on this particular project. So involve your teams. Lead by example. That is, every day people are going to catch me doing things that are in that vision. In my vision as well. I share my personal vision, at least some of it, with my teams, so that they know this is who I am and this is what I'm working toward. And they're going to see me act upon that vision. They're going to see me doing things that are in alignment with that vision. Lead by example. Encourage feedback. Constantly encourage feedback about the vision. Because again, even at a project level vision, that project level vision is still going to evolve. And we know that, right? And some projects are going to evolve a lot. So encourage feedback. We want feedback. So before we leave, I want to give you a few keys to improving your communication, your vision about your communication. And this is kind of communication in general, right? The first is treat your audience. Treat your audience. If you're communicating to a particular audience, treat them as royalty. Treat them as kings and queens. Now think about your audience. Who's your audience when you're making a presentation? Who's your audience when you're presenting your vision to your project team? Who's your audience when you're communicating a potential vision to senior management, trying to convince them of this project? Think about who your audience is. You're going to treat them as kings and queens. You might have heard the statement that content is king. That is the content of a seminar, for example, the content of a written piece. That's what we should be concentrating on. That's king. No. What's king and queen? That's my audience. That's who's going to read my piece. That's going to listen to me. They're the royalty, not what I'm going to say. And you'll be amazed at the difference that makes in your presentations. You'll be amazed in the difference of your communication in general when you treat your audience like they're royalty. Spread your ideas and move people. This is the only reason for communication, to be able to spread your ideas and move people in that direction. But again, in terms of a vision, spread that vision and move everybody toward that vision. Help your audience see what you're saying. Give them, I used to work for Dale Carnegie Training many moons ago. And one of the trainer who taught me, he used props a lot. And he would hold the prop up big, high in the air. And he was a tall guy. Rick was his name. And Rick would hold it up, the prop up in his hand and for everybody to see it, right? Or if you're working on PowerPoint slides like I have for you here today, those PowerPoint slides should be helping you to see exactly what I'm saying. It reinforces the point. Whether you use charts or graphs or pictures, those props should be designed to be able to help people see exactly what you're saying. And then lastly, we should be communicating to cultivate human relationships. Every communication should be about involving other people. Every communication should be about building a relationship with your audience. Now, that relationship might only last a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, but it should be impactful. Creating culture, cultivating human relationships is the only reason to communicate. We want to be able to cultivate relationships. One other quick, very quick story. I've spent some time in Morocco. I sat in a cafe in Morocco and I met this Moroccan guy, and he and I kind of struck up a conversation. I had very limited French. He had limited French. He spoke Arabic. I didn't speak any Arabic. He didn't speak any English. So we had a nice conversation. We had a 2-hour conversation. And I learned about his business. He had learned about my business. And again, the conversation got around to family and all kinds of subjects. But again, it was a 2-hour conversation to build a relationship with this guy. I haven't seen him since, but I still count him today as my friend. The only reason is to cultivate human relationships.